history has an expiration date. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is history can only be used as a moral reference, as a moral referencing point for so long. So we can say, well, Hitler was, we can say Nazism is bad. Why? Because of Hitler. And then we can go back to the 1930s and 1940s as an historical reference as to why Nazism is dangerous and destructive, right? We can say, okay, well, German nationalism, German ultra-nationalism is very destructive and dangerous. Well, how do we know that? Well, we can go back to history and we can look at the German nationalists of today and we can compare their words, their statements to what the Nazis were saying back in the past, and we can see a lot of parallels. And thereby, we can see the dangers in a present ideology of German ultranationalism, or really German nationalism in general. That all has an expiration date, because there were people before Hitler who were worse than Hitler. Genghis Khan was worse than Hitler. The Mongolian Empire wiped out 11% of the world's population, which means, 11%. Oh, it's nothing. 11%. You still got a whole lot of people left. Okay, well, when you're dealing, anytime you're dealing globally, just 1% of anything is going to be a huge number, right? So, if America says, well, this product consists of 1% of our GDP. That's huge, right? 1% of a country's GDP is huge, because anytime you're dealing with anything that's national or global, 1% or even a percentage of a percent is going to be a huge number. So 11% of the population being wiped out by the Mongolians means that the Mongolians wiped out literally tens of millions of people. We're talking at least 36 million people wiped out. Or even more than that. It could have been maybe 60 million or around that number. The Mongolian Empire was, physically speaking, it was the largest empire in history. I know the American Empire is the biggest empire in history in terms of the American Empire having influence and political leverage and control over the seas and having global hegemony. Yeah, there's no empire like America, right? No empire in history came to the point that America has. But as far as physically controlling territory with armies, the Mongolians have the biggest empire, right? The Mongolian Empire was bigger than the Roman Empire. But if you look at modern day books on Genghis Khan or on the Mongolian Empire, they're not speaking about the Mongolian Empire as if it's this giant, evil Leviathan monster like they do in books on the Third Reich. They're talking about the Mongolian Empire in very cold, objective ways. The Mongolian Empire, it did some bad things, but, the Mongolian Empire also had a very effective postal system. This is the type of things that modern historians say when they talk about the Mongolian Empire. And why is it this way, right? As evil as the Mongolian Empire was, why is it this way? It's because history as a moral compass has an expiration date. That's the reason why. History has an expiration date. And eventually Hitler will have his time. Hitler will have his time when that expiration date will be met, and it will no longer be the case that Nazism will be a major referencing point for moral matters, or a major referencing point for warning people about the dangers of ultranationalism, or the dangers of eugenics, or the dangers of German nationalism, because there's going to be a point where people aren't going to be worried about such things, because nationalism is rising, and it continues to rise, and globalism, the whole neoliberal / neoconservative paradigm is declining. But even regardless of all that, right? Even if that weren't the case, even if it weren't the case that globalism is going down, or that the American hegemony is going down, no matter what you do, history has an expiration point. Because as generations go by, as time goes by, people stop caring so much about such things. Just like people don't care about the Mongolian Empire. People don't care about Attila the Hun. As bad as these empires were, people don't care about them anymore. People don't care about the Ottoman Empire anymore. And this is the reason why you can doubt the Armenian genocide. Nobody cares. Because history has an expiration point. That expiration date is determined by the surpassing of time, the development of later generations coming into existence and not caring so much about what former generations had to go through. But it also has to do with culture, right? We don't care about Armenia. Armenians don't have a huge presence in America. They don't have a whole lot of influence in American society. There's no Schindler's List for the Armenian genocide. So the Armenian genocide, no one cares about it, right? The Holocaust has much more relevance in American society, given the fact that we've had a lot of movies about the Holocaust, and there's been so much talk about the Holocaust. But even that has an expiration point, right? As generations go by, as more and more people are born, as people get older, as new generations come to be, and don't really care so much about what former generations cared about or what former generations had to go through, Hitler will have his time where that expiration date will come, just like Napoleon. I mean, Napoleon started a war that led to the deaths of millions of people. And Napoleon was jump-started by the French Revolution. The French Revolution massacred millions of people. For example, the French writer Joseph de Maistre, he lived at the time of the French Revolution, and he says in his writings that the French Revolution butchered literally millions of people. And today, no one talks about the agony of the French Revolution or the nightmare of the French Revolution. Sure, they are people, conservatives, who will talk about the Reign of Terror, but the French Revolution is up for debate. The French Revolution, there are different opinions on the French Revolution, and no one is looked down upon for saying that the French Revolution was great. In fact, there are a lot of people who say that the French Revolution was great, and they are in the mainstream of academia. Why? Even the founding fathers were horrified by the French Revolution. At first they were sympathetic towards it, but then they saw, massive numbers of people being beheaded, and they're okay, that's not good. But you can say that the French Revolution was a great thing, and no one will be surprised. No one's going to be disturbed. As horrific as the French Revolution was, I mean, you had hundreds of thousands of people who were stripped naked, bound together by ropes, and then forced into ships, and the ships were sunk so that all the people could be drowned inside. I mean, this is the type of stuff that the French revolutionaries were doing to people, because those people were considered counter-revolutionary. They made their own little concentration camps, and they made them out of ships. They would put you in a ship, they would concentrate huge numbers of people into ships, and then they would sink the boats. But people today can praise the French Revolution, as horrific as it was. Why? Because history has an expiration date. The moral relevance of an historical nightmare has an expiration date, and Hitler will have his time. Hitler will have his time, and that is horrifying to think about, right? As newer generations get older, as newer generations come to be, the expiration date for the Nazis is coming. It's coming closer. I'm not saying it's going to happen in the next 5 years, but it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Just like people glorifying or people saying nice things about Genghis Khan is considered fine today, as horrific as the Mongolian Empire was. So this is why it's important to read history, right? It's important to read that, hey, you had the Hitlers back in the past. Hitler was nothing new. You had them in the past. But we also have to understand, we can learn this by reading history, we can understand that the moral relevance of an historical evil has an expiration date, and people will forget about it. And this is one lesson that we can learn from history. The greatest lesson that we can learn from history is that people forget history. People don't learn from history. We can learn this from reading history. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.